morning, everybody. My name is Darlene, and I have Parkinson's. Let me just have a mishmash of a video today and tell you a few things that went on today, and then I'm just going to tell a couple of little stories or memories. Today, I had to go see a new doctor today. I saw a new family doctor, and I think he's going to work out wonderfully. He saw me. He's agreed to see Bill and Claudine as well. So I was the first one to go in and have an appointment with him, and the nice thing is he has access on his computer to all of my records, and he doesn't have to start from scratch, and we don't have to bring records from another doctor's office. He just can look them straight up. And he was very nice, and he was very understanding, and I felt quite comfortable with him, so that's good. So I hope I don't need him very often, but it's good to know that there's somebody, and he's close by. So that's what's really nice about it. And so Claudine met him as well, because she came in with me, and I think it went really well. Now, what else did we do? I haven't done a whole lot because this is the state of my hands today. I have been locked up like this, and I can't seem to get them to move. My legs are going, but I'm not as animated as I usually am, and my hands aren't working at all. But I've been craving chili for I don't know how long. And I wanted to make it the way I make chili, which is I make a sweet chili and I use pineapple in it, crushed pineapple and maple syrup. So I wanted to do that. So I thought, well, I'll start it today and take my time, and we'll have it so that it sits overnight and it'll taste really good for tomorrow's dinner. So Claudine is going to go to Sobeys and just run right next door to Arby's and pick up a couple of sandwiches for us all. So that'll be tonight's dinner, and we'll have the chili tomorrow. Sobeys, she's just going to pick up a couple of vegetables that I wanted. I needed some celery and some mushrooms to add to the peppers and onions that I had to go into the chili, so she's going to do that. And while we were sitting around at home, just visiting, we got talking about Mom and Dad, and every once in a while I really have a moment where I love the memories, you know, like I remember things so clearly. Well, there was one particular time that, I should start by saying, I'm going to put a picture on at the very beginning of this video, so you will have seen it already. It was my mom when she was 18 years old, leaving her home. She had 11 siblings, and her mother and father, and she left home at 18 years old and immigrated to Canada, where another brother was here already. So she came to Brandon, Manitoba. That's where she came to originally. Well, she came, you know, of course, to the East Coast and took the train across. But she settled in Brandon, Manitoba, where she met my dad. But I'd like to just note that in the little video, or the little picture that we have of her leaving Ireland, she's bringing with herself her purse and one suitcase. That's all she had when she moved to Canada, a purse and one suitcase. And I can't imagine now. We take more than that on a weekend when we go away. But anyway, so she took the boat, she came across, she immigrated, and I'm so thankful she did. She met my father in Brandon, Manitoba, and they went on to get married and have 3 children and a very good life. So that was one of my things. Now I'm going to tell you about a holiday that they took. They went to see and this is what Claudine and I were talking about, they went to see the Passion play in Outtro. It's a play that is put on once every 10 years. I'm just going to pause for just 1 second. My husband just came in the room, and I just want to talk to him for a second. I'll be right back. Well, that likely only seemed like a second to you, but it was probably 15 minutes for me, because I talked to Bill, and then I talked to Claudine for a little bit, and we got a shopping list ready. I have to tell you, I'm very distracted at times. But anyway, so we were talking about Outtro, and I wanted to look up, make sure I wasn't giving any false information. I knew this, but I wasn't positive. So I looked it up, and it is true. The Passion play originally started in 1634, and it went till 1674, once every 10 years. And the village people were honoring a promise that they made to God, because God had done something that saved the village or whatever, so they were honoring him. So from 1634 to 1674, every 10 years, they did this Passion play. And then they waited just till 1680, so it was just 6 years. 6 years after they had done it. They started again in 1680, and they have done it every 10 years now since then. So that's over 300 years that they've been doing this. And it's a remarkable thing to be able to say that they're still doing it. Anyway, I looked up what the attendance would be. People travel from all around the world to go because it's only once every 10 years. People plan this as part of their vacation. And my parents were no different. They were a part of a tour that was going for, I think, 10 days or 12 days around a few countries in Europe on a bus. They were traveling with people that they currently had lived in Vancouver at the time. They were traveling with people who were from Edmonton, because we used to live in Edmonton, and the minister of the church that Mom and Dad attended said to them, phoned them up and said, would you like to go? We've got a group going. Would you like to go? So they said yes, they would. So they went to Oberammergau. Now, in each season that they do it, once every 10 years, every performance, there's approximately 4,500 people attend, huge crowds. And then in the course of the whole season, there's approximately 500,000 people that view this Passion Play. I can't even imagine that. But anyway, the funny thing is, Mom and Dad go, and they know the people in their group. They're very afraid of getting lost and getting out of their group and whatnot. So the whole group sort of puts on the same color, so they're a little easier to spot and whatnot. And then they were going to have, I think it was lunch, but anyway, they were going to have lunch, and they were sitting at these long outside tables. Now, if you were looking for somebody, you would never find them in that crowd. You would just never find them in that crowd. Mom and Dad weren't looking for anybody because they had the people they were touring with. And they sat down at this table, and out of the tables behind them, Dad hears somebody go, Harold, Francis, is that you? And Dad looks around. He goes, Coleman's present. And they said, his last name was Coleman. And it was the minister who had married Mom and Dad that were there. Like, they couldn't believe that they had run into somebody that they had known. But anyway, they had a great time, and they talked for many times about that experience of going there. I would have loved to have gone, but I never did have a chance to do that. But Claudine and I were talking about that today. It was very interesting. And then another trip that we were remembering, my mom wanted to go back home and visit with her family. And Claudine was, I can't think how old Claudine was. Oh, she's still here? No, she's gone. How old would she be? I think she had to have been 10. Maybe not quite 10. Maybe 8. Anyway, somewhere in there. And we lived in Vancouver at Mom and Dad's neighborhood. And Mom wanted desperately to go back. She got 2 weeks off work. She said, I'll only go for 2 weeks. She got 2 weeks off work. And she decided that she was going to go. And Dad didn't have any time off. So he said, listen, you just go and have a great visit, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. So Mom, she is a great one for planning things. And she says to me, I've got a week's worth of meals in the freezer for Dad. Now, would you go over there on the Saturday and take his empty plates and make another 7 dinners and put them in the freezer so that he'll have food for the second week? Like, Dad couldn't have handled it himself. I'm sure he could have been just fine. But anyway, so that was what the plan was. Well, she hadn't been gone 3 days. Not 3 days. Till Dad phoned me up and he said, Darlene, does Claudine have a passport? And I said, no, she doesn't. He said, can you get one fast? And I said, well, I think I can. Yes, why? And he said, because I miss your mother, and I'm going to go to Ireland, and I'd like to take Claudine with me. I said, well, let me see what I can do. So anyway, I checked into it, and yes, you can get a passport in 3 days if you need to. And so I got her a passport, and he wasn't taking me. I was going to work, so I didn't have to make Dad his extra meals. But anyway, he takes Claudine, and they go to Ireland. Nobody over there knew they were coming except for my Uncle James. Uncle James, please excuse me, wiggling all over the place here. My pills have now started to work, and so I'm now very spastic here. But even with my hands, my pills working, my hands are still not. Anyway, so my Uncle James, he goes to the airport to pick them up, and he said they're all out visiting tonight over down at Martha. So they went to Martha's, and Mom, of course, wasn't expecting anybody coming, least of all her husband and granddaughter. Anyway, she had said to Dad on the phone, you won't believe it, but Mabel's little one looks just like Claudine. And so she'd sent pictures, you know, and I think it was just the way the hair was done the same. But anyway, it just looked like her. Well, anyway, they were down at Martha's visiting, and so they go into the house, Dad and James and Aunt Claudine. And they go in, and Mom looks right at them. And it's because she wasn't expecting anything. She looked and she went, Harold? And he said, yeah, I'm here. He says, I'm here. He said, I got you an extra week. He said, I phoned your boss, got you an extra week's holiday, and I've come for 2 weeks. And she said, oh my goodness, that's so nice. And he says, I brought somebody with me. And she looked over to see Claudine, and she didn't even think it was Claudine. She thought it was Mabel's little one. And then it dawned on her when Claudine goes, Grandma! She went racing to her. And she was so surprised, so surprised. But that's just what makes me love my mom and dad so much. They loved each other so much that he could not go 3 weeks without going over to visit her. Anyway, there was that, and then there was one other thing I was going to tell you. What was it? Oh yeah, then when Mom had her first heart attack, she's about 45 or 50, I think. Let's see, I would have been, I can't remember, my brain isn't doing math right now. So anyway, she would have been in her 45 to 55 range, and she had a heart attack. And she was out in Chilliwack. They were out visiting my grandmother, and they were out in Chilliwack, and so she went to the Chilliwack hospital. And while she was in there, Dad had to go to work every day, and then so he would drive, he had to drive an hour this direction to go to work, and then he would drive an hour home for supper, get changed, and drive an hour in that direction to get to Chilliwack, and then when he visited Mom, he would drive an hour home, on top of everything that he really did all the time. So it was a lot of driving, and he said he was so thankful that Mom was the type to be prepared and have things in the freezer. So anyway, he got up one morning, he was going to work. He pulled a meat pie out of the freezer and set it on the counter, knowing it would be thawed when he came home, and he would just pop it in the oven for an hour and it would be done. So he came home and he popped it in the oven, went and had a shower and got himself ready. Came out to have this wonderful meat pie, and when he cut into it, it was an apple pie. And I said, well, what did you do? And he said, I ate 3 pieces of apple pie and ice cream, called it dinner, and went to visit your mom. Oh my goodness. I tell you, they loved each other. When she died, we just couldn't believe that he was going to make it without her. And he made it for 12 years. I have no idea how, because they were in love. Anyway, that's it for today. I just wanted to share some of my memories because I've been thinking of them all day, and Claudine's going to bring me home my few vegetables I need, and I'm going to make up the chili tonight. It'll be tasting great, and we're going to have chili and corn chips tomorrow night for dinner. All right, I'm going to let you go. Everybody have a good time, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.